He had positioned himself behind me, close enough to see my screen when I was looking through my Instagram settings. He noticed the names on my close friends list. Then he created a fake account posing as one of those people and sent me follow requests over the following weeks. 3 different nights. But the same screen brought the horror to Queen Cat's room. If you're watching this from the dark, double tap that like button, subscribe, and tell me, is your bedroom door locked? My name is Queen Cat, and I posted a story to my Instagram close friends list at 1:40 a.m. on a Saturday night, suffering from insomnia and having nothing better to do. It was a video of my TV broadcasting a reality show in the dark, with my feet resting on the coffee table. It was completely uninteresting content, but I always did that when I was bored and wanted my friends to know that I was awake. Usually, someone from the list would send me a message and we would bicker about something until sleep finally overcame us. My close friends list included exactly 12 people. Some college roommates, a few cousins, and my childhood best friend, Divya. My phone vibrated with a reaction within seconds. It was a flame emoji. I tapped to see who it was, and the name made me furrow my brows. It was a guy named Roan. I tapped on his profile picture and remembered him, a senior from my high school days. We had barely spoken back then, just a few exchanges during school festivals, and even that had completely stopped after graduation. I stared at his name, trying to recall if I had ever added him to my close friends. I had always been very careful and kept that list strictly restricted. I checked my settings, removed his handle, and tried to convince myself that I had perhaps added him by mistake, but it just didn't add up. With a sigh, I put my phone down and tried to focus on the show instead. But the vibration of my phone caught my attention again. I picked it up, and it was Roan once more. I opened the inbox and almost dropped my phone. Roan had sent me a text message. 2 words: turn around. My stomach nodded. I sat frozen on my couch staring at those 2 words before slowly casting a glance over my shoulder toward the empty living room behind me. But my apartment was exactly as it usually was. Before I could recover from the shock, another message arrived. No, the other room. He was talking about my bedroom. My breathing accelerated. I could see the bedroom door straight from the couch. It was halfway open, but I distinctly knew I had closed it out of habit before sitting down. I strained my ears and heard muffled footsteps echoing within the space. He was coming out of my bedroom. I didn't think for a second. I grabbed my phone and ran straight out of the apartment. I called the police from the lobby, my hands shaking so violently that I could barely hold the phone. They arrived in about 10 minutes. 2 officers went up to my place while I waited downstairs with a third. They stayed up there for a long time. When they finally came back down, one of them was escorting Roan in handcuffs. He had been hiding under my bed for hours. The officer told me they found his phone open on Instagram. He was watching my stories in real time from right underneath my bed. At the police station, Roan explained exactly how he had done it. 3 weeks earlier, I was at a coffee shop near my office working on my laptop. Roan was there too. I hadn't noticed him. He had positioned himself behind me, close enough to see my screen when I was looking through my Instagram settings. He noticed the names on my close friends list. Then he created a fake account posing as one of those people and sent me follow requests over the following weeks. I had accepted without thinking, because I recognized the name and assumed it was a second account, or that I had forgotten to accept it the first time. His fake account saw everything I posted to my close friends, and he'd been watching me for weeks, seeing everything I believed was entirely private. He had studied my habits and my schedule before planning everything out. Thanks to my stories, he figured out that I always left the small back window cracked open at night for fresh air, and he waited for the right moment to climb in. Then he hid under my bed and watched my stories, waiting for the perfect moment to act. When they asked him why he had done it and what he intended to to do. He said he wanted to take photos of me while I was sleeping, claiming he was going to post them on Instagram. I left my apartment 2 days later. I couldn't spend a single night there knowing he had been under my bed. Despite my friends trying to convince me that it wasn't my fault, I deleted my Instagram account and even changed my phone number. I am currently seeing a therapist who specializes in trauma and harassment cases. The police helped me get a restraining order that felt entirely useless, but it was all the legal system could offer. It has been months now. My company transferred me to another city. The neighborhood is safe, but I have 3 locks on my door and cameras in every single room linked directly to my phone. I look under my bed every single night before sleeping, and I still can't do it without my heart racing and my hands trembling, because I now know that privacy is a total myth and close friends lists mean absolutely nothing. Someone can be watching you through a screen while lying just 5 feet away from you in the pitch black under your bed. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't fled that night, and I am deeply grateful I never had to find out. My name is Queen Cat, and this happened 7 months after I moved out, because I believed that independence would make me stronger. I had always wanted to go to medical school, and living alone seemed like the kind of sacrifice that serious people make. Most of the time, Instagram was the only thing that reminded me I wasn't living under a rock, so I was quite active on Instagram. The follow request arrived around 11:30 p.m. on a Wednesday evening while I was reviewing for a biology exam at my desk. The account was called Atemili. It looked like a bot account because there was no profile picture, no posts, and no followers. I should have declined it immediately, but I was 19 and I was exhausted. I wasn't really thinking, and I'd received dozens of random requests that week from people creating new accounts or bots or whatever. I accepted it without thinking, and I went back to my notes on cellular respiration. A few seconds later, my phone vibrated. Atemili had posted a story. I clicked on it more out of curiosity than anything else. The image loaded, and my stomach nodded. It was undeniably my house. The photo was taken from the street, but you could see my window on the 2nd floor. The curtains were open, the lights were on, and by squinting your eyes you could make out my shadow under the desk lamp near my bookshelf. Before I even realized what was happening, a message arrived. "You should turn that off now, Queen Cat." My hands began to shake. My mouth went completely dry. I jumped out of my seat, I turned off the lamp and closed the curtains. My room became dark except for the glow of my screen. I stood there, in the dark, trying to understand. At that exact moment, my phone vibrated again. Atemili had posted another story. I opened it, my heart pounding, and I almost screamed. The story updated. It was my house again, but from the inside this time. The photo had been taken close to the floor, as if someone had crouched down in my hallway. The camera was pointing straight toward my bedroom door. My chest tightened. They were inside my house, close enough to move around, take photos, and post them, while I remained frozen in my dark room, terrified of making the slightest noise. I rushed to lock my bedroom door before grabbing my phone and dialing 911. I kept my head pressed against the door to listen for any noises while the call connected and the operator answered. I whispered that someone was inside my house. She told me to find a place to hide and to stay on the line. I slipped into my closet, closed the door, and stayed there in the dark. My phone was pressed to my ear, and my free hand was over my mouth to stop myself from making any noise. I heard a faint rustling sound in the hallway, followed by a small, stifled laugh that completely knotted my stomach. The operator kept talking to me while she told me that the police were on their way. And I stayed curled up in that closet, counting my breaths and jumping at every single sound in the house. At one point, I checked Instagram again. The account was offline, but had not deleted the photos. When the police arrived, I was sobbing so hard that I had trouble speaking. One officer comforted me while another searched the entire house. They found my back door unlocked, but everything else was in its place. They took my phone and looked at the Instagram account. Atemili was still there, but the 2 stories had already expired. An officer took screenshots anyway and asked me if I knew anyone named Emily. I told them no. They filed a report and told me to change my locks and to install cameras. One officer suggested that I stay somewhere else for a few days. I called my parents and they came to pick me up at 2 in the morning. I never set foot in that house again. My parents moved my things out the following week while I stayed at their place. We put the house up for sale a month later. I finished my pre-med and chose a college in another state. I will graduate in 6 months, but the police have still never found them. I don't think they ever will. The Atemili account completely disappeared the next day, as if it had never existed. They traced the IP address to a public library 3 towns away, but the security footage from that night was already overwritten by the time they checked. I have tried to turn the page and move forward, but the episode remains somewhere deep in the back of my mind, and I cannot help but relive that night over and over. Who was he? What did he want? How did he know exactly where my house and my bedroom were? I wonder if they are still out there and have found someone else to follow, someone whose bedroom window is visible from the street and who accepts the request. Empty account follow requests at 11:30 p.m. without thinking twice. They always tell you to be kind to the lonely people. They tell you that a simple smile in the hallway can save a soul. But what they never tell you is that some people don't understand boundaries. To them, a polite smile isn't just kindness, it's an invitation. And by the time you realize they've mistaken your pity for obsession, it's already too late. They are already standing in the dark corner of your room, waiting for you to wake up. My name is Queen Cat. Back then, I was a senior in high school, but I had known Robbie Mercer for almost 10 years. He was just the kind of person you recognize by sight, even without really knowing them. The guy was a bit of a geek and incredibly clumsy, which pretty much explained why he always ate lunch by himself, did his homework in the library during free periods, and never went to football games or parties or anything social at all. But he was also cute in his own way, which made you want to root for him. I had always thought he just needed someone to give him a chance. And that's why it didn't bother me when he messaged me on Instagram right after I posted that little monkey, Punch. Punch is literally the cutest thing on the internet. Oh my God, are you kidding me? I'm completely obsessed with his tiny wrinkled face, he wrote. Oh my God, are you serious? I replied. We started chatting, and I caught myself smiling at my phone. Robbie was funny, a little awkward, but in an endearing way. He sent me more videos of Punch, and we talked about school, music, and other important things. But soon, he started sending me text messages literally every single day. He sent me Punch reels, good morning messages, and questions about my day and my life. He messaged me during classes, dinner, and even in the middle of the night. It got to the point where my phone wouldn't stop vibrating, and the messages were becoming more and more personal. You are my best and only friend, Queen Cat. I wish we could be more than that, he sent one evening. Even though we had never met in person, he tried to call me several times a day. When I didn't answer, he would send me long paragraphs saying how much he missed my voice. I felt bad for him, but it was becoming more and more overwhelming. I told him I needed space. He sent me 20 messages in response, asking me what he had done wrong. I tried to be gentle, but I couldn't find any way to stop him, so I blocked him. That night, I woke up to a strange noise in my bedroom. I opened my eyes, and a silhouette was standing in the corner near my closet. He was tall and wearing what looked like a monkey suit. The big plastic eyes caught the light from my window, and I screamed. No, don't be afraid, Queen Cat, Robbie said, rushing over to my bed. It's just me, like Punch. You like Punch, right? I screamed again and scrambled back on my bed all the way to the headboard. He kept getting closer, his mask tilted as if he were observing me. My life is just like Punch's, he laughed. I am alone and unwanted too. Nobody wants me but you. You were different. You smiled at me in the hallway and answered my messages. He reached out his hand, holding a small stuffed monkey toy. I want you to be mine, Queen Cat, my stuffed toy. We can be together like Punch and his owner. Suddenly, I heard heavy footsteps in the hallway. Queen Cat, Queen Cat. My dad was shouting my name from the other side. Unfortunately, my bedroom door was locked. Robbie, bye, please, I mouthed, but it was impossible to form a sentence. I was just so terrified. I could hear my dad throwing himself against the doorframe. After the fourth or fifth attempt, it gave way on its hinges. Robbie turned towards the noise. His mask pivoted, and for a second, he stayed frozen, as if he hadn't planned for this. At that moment, my dad had busted through the door and tackled him. Robbie didn't fight back. He simply surrendered while my dad pinned him to the floor. My mom was calling the police. I was still pressed against my headboard, shaking so hard that my teeth were chattering. The police came and took him away, still wearing the costume. They discovered later that he had planned everything for weeks. He had scouted my window by watching the house from the street and had climbed the tree to get inside. He had been in my room for almost 20 minutes before I woke up. He told the police that he loved me, that we had a connection, and that I was the only one who had been kind to him. He wanted us to be together like Punch and his owner. He had brought the stuffed monkey as a token of love, saying that I could keep it and think of him whenever I looked at it. They sent Robbie to a juvenile detention center. He would be there for a while. Dad got me a restraining order that goes beyond. My parents installed cameras and better locks, and I changed schools right in the middle of my senior year. Yet, I no longer watch videos of Punch or even see pictures of monkeys without my chest tightening. My friends don't understand why I blocked all the animal accounts I used to be crazy about. I never told them the real reason, because every time I see those big eyes and that helpless little face, I'm right back in my bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, with Robbie standing in the corner wearing that mask, hearing him say he wanted me to be his stuffed toy, as if I were a plaything he could keep in his room and squeeze whenever he felt lonely. And I think about the fact that I smiled at him once in the hallway and answered his messages just because I felt sorry for him. I wonder how many other girls have made the same mistake. We were kind to the quiet guy because kindness costs nothing, and how many of them are still sleeping peacefully without checking the corners of their room first?